Hello and welcome back for episode 14 of our Let's Play series. So off the start here, we're just gonna kind of watch a video of a. I needed time to think, so I just kind of slapped together a new plane. It's still got some kinks that I have worked out now. This is a fairly early version of it, but I also had a mission to just take some surveys that were literally just south of KSP. So I just kind of went out and did those and got a little extra money for doing those. And then I'll show it in a second, but I'd also picked up a few more science experiments. So while I was out there, I grabbed some readings from both the shores and the grasslands. So that's the video you're watching right now. It's kind of the start of the montage, but I figured I might as well talk over some stuff too. So planning going forward, the next most logical thing for me to do is either a Mun base or a space station, because we haven't done either of those yet, and it's something new. So in order, I was looking through the science stuff and the parts and all that, and basically the parts I want to be able to do both space stations and space bases are locked behind the paywall right now. I have to upgrade the science center so that I can actually get at the nodes that I need or the parts that I need from the science center, because they're all locked right now behind upgrading that thing. So to upgrade it, it is 1.6 million. And on top of that, I wouldn't mind upgrading some of the other buildings as well, which is going to be a whole bunch of money. Now, I'm currently sitting on like 3.5 million or something like that, so I do have a pretty good chunk of change. However, if I just dump it all into buildings, I won't really have anything left to build rockets. And if we're going to do a space station or a space base, I'm also going to need quite a bit of money. I'll probably need a couple 100,000 just to build those as well. So I don't really like to shortchange myself, so we're going to go through a bit of a montage here where I'm going to essentially just farm some money and try and get us some more money. The first part of this will be montage. I'll just kind of show some of the things that I did. However, there is one mission that will get me a whole bunch of money, and it's kind of new, so I think that one I'll actually run live, and that'll be the mission for this episode. So, I guess without further ado, we might as well get to the montage. But first, you got to see this pro star landing that I pulled off here in the grasslands to get some more science. Because I don't think I could reproduce it, even if I tried. Anyway, to the montage. Right, so the first order of business, you can see here, I'm a complete idiot, and in the fine print there, it says that a coupler I was supposed to test on Minmus, I was supposed to activate it through the staging sequence. So when I got back from our big Minmus mission, I came and checked our missions here and realized my mistake and got really angry with myself. So what I did was slapping together a quick probe launcher. And by probe launcher, I mean it's a single stage rocket, so that guy is going to go all the way to orbit on that single stage, as well as that stage will return. It'll have enough fuel and it's got a brain so that it'll actually get to orbit, release the probe, and then it'll come back down and land hopefully near KSP. And the probe itself is just bare bones. It's literally just a probe, satellite comms, a spark engine, one fuel tank, and the decoupler. So what this is going to do is it's going to get the probe up to orbit, then the probe's going to go to Minmus, land on Minmus, eject the decoupler, and then suicide itself. And we should absolutely minimize our bare bones cost because we're going to recover the orbit stage of the rocket. That's the bulk of the cost. I think the probe itself is only like 1,000. So we should be able to knock this mission off and correct my mistake without actually taking too much of a penalty on money. It is worth like 200,000, so we've definitely made money off of it. But it was a pain in the ass, and it took me like an hour to get out there and do it all, and it's just time I didn't need to spend, but I was stupid, so here we go. However, we've seen this a million times at this point, so I just kind of montaged while I was talking there through most of the mission. So we've already got our orbiter back down safe, and we're now at the final stages of getting back onto Minmus, which you can see here. Now, I don't have any landing gear at all, so the only real trick I had to do here was make sure I landed really, really slow so that the engine didn't explode. And then we activated the decoupler through the staging sequence this time, and now all it's left to do is suicide our little probe. I could have left it there, but I thought this would be a little more fun, so hoocha kablamo! Right, so the next order of business was to go spend some of that science that we've hoarded up here. So we leveled out tier 5 and just grabbed everything in tier 5. And then I also grabbed a couple more science experiments, the atmosphere scanner, the surface scanner, and the seismic scanner. And then I also grabbed the fuel cells because I'm really bad at forgetting to deploy solar panels, and it gives me a backup in case I do that again, because I most likely will. And then popped back over to the mission center and picked up 3 missions. There was the survey mission you saw at the start of the episode, as well as gather science data from surface of Minmus, and also build a Minmus base, which we will cover in a later episode, but I just wanted to grab it while it was there. And because I had those new science experiments, I actually took a little trip and went into, well, I got the shores, the grasslands, the highlands, and the mountains by just flying a plane and landing in each of those zones. And I took an atmosphere survey flying over it and landed, and then it took seismic and surface surveys, landed at all those biomes. And you can see we got about 116 signs for it. Carrying on, there was another mission to rescue a Kerbal, and I kind of wanted to just go do it, so I did. So exact same process as last time. We are using the exact same rocket that we used with the Claw, and spun the guy around, timed on our launch, and I actually did an experiment, and I launched when the vessel was exactly 500 kilometers from me, because I want to try and time out these launches better so that I can get closer to him. And when I got into orbit, I was about 160 kilometers away from him, so I would say 400 would probably be a better time to launch. But anyway, we did some orbits and got a nice close rendezvous that I was able to nurse in. However, it was going to be on the night side. So what I actually did is got up close to him and just got into orbit lock. And then you can see here I just fast forwarded so that we came around to the day side, but we were still nice and close together, so I didn't have to do another approach. And then we got spun around and came in for a nice clean encounter right about there. However, you can see I was completely off the mark, so I actually released it, and when I released it, it went into a tumble, so I used the old warp trick to kill the tumble, and then spun around and came in for another approach here. And came in a lot slower this time, just so that I could really make sure that I hit this guy square, because as you can see, it's the 2.5 meter part, so it's huge and it's heavy, which also raises a lot of questions of whether or not I'm actually going to be able to bring this thing back down with me. However, I figured it was at least worth a shot, so this time we got a nice, clean, almost dead center attachment. So we EVA'd our lost Kerbal and moved him over, and then from there it was just a matter of getting back down. So we aimed at KSC, did our burn. I guess the Kerbal was an engineer. I was kind of pissed about that, but whatever. So we have our trajectory now. We're going to completely overshoot KSC, which you're going to see here, but we're at least going to be close enough. And normally this rocket would have ditched the space stage, and there's actually a heat shield under there that I would have used to come back down. But I was really concerned that I only had 2 parachutes, and I was not accounting for having to bring down a 2.5 meter part. So I basically saved the engine so that I could actually do a bit of a burn to try and slow us down in case the parachutes weren't enough. And you can see in the re-entry there, we actually flipped. And then once the parachutes actually pulled, I had to basically try and get this thing to spin around. So I had to kind of just wiggle it and lock the retrograde to get it spun around so that I could actually fire the engine right before we hit the water. And it kind of worked. Not really, but you can see it slowed us down a bit, but we blew up the fuel tank. But you can see underneath there, the mono tanks and the engine actually survived. They're no longer attached to anything, but we were able to recover what we had and then just go out to the ocean and recover the other stuff. And then I went back to the mission center. There was another rescue one, which I'll probably just do off camera. And then there's this guy, which is the kind of penultimate of what this episode is going to cover. So basically there's a mission to take 6 Kerbals. 3 of them need to land on Mun, and 1 needs to land on Minmus. So we're going to do a mission that's going to land on Mun and Minmus and take 7 Kerbals all at once. So I built this guy, which you'll notice actually looks very similar to what we used to go to Minmus. However, this guy is entirely one piece. It's going to literally go, well, we're going to get it to orbit, then it's going to burn to Mun, then it's going to do a break, then it's going to land, then it's going to take it back off to orbit. And it's going to go out to Minmus, land, take off, and come all the way back to Kerbin using nothing but this stage here, which when it actually comes back to Kerbin, however, I am going to ditch it and let it burn up. And just the upper piece will actually come down for landing. So it's fairly typical. We got a whole whack of engines, landing gear, all that kind of crap. I was a little concerned about the decouplers are a really weak point in crafts, so I was kind of concerned about having a decoupler in the middle there. So you can see I actually created some struts that will kind of fasten that guy together and keep it together, just to give it a little more stability. Lots of parachutes, lots of reaction wheel. This guy holds 4 Kerbals. This guy holds 3 Kerbals, so that'll give us our 7. We only need 6 tourists, but we need a pilot because I didn't put a probe on it. And then I just slapped some lights on it for fun. I kind of built this thing for fun. Actually, we will be able to take some science when we land on the different, just because we have new science experiments. Thermostat over there. For some reason, a antenna there, which I need to get rid of. And a fuel cell in case I'm stupid and forget to deploy the single solar panel. But you can see we finally have the large solar panels. So just the one guy here should be enough power to do everything we need. In fact, it should be enough to even keep the lights on. So now it's got 3,500 delta. Oh, excuse me. It's got 3,500 delta V, which I kind of did some quick napkin math, and I estimated I needed about 3,200. So I'm hoping this will be enough to do everything we need to do, although it is probably going to leave us a bit shy. And yeah, I think I just need to go and... So I just need to build a launcher for this guy, and then we can actually start this mission. Colbins, while we are out on the launch pad, we have our launcher attached, and we are ready for launch. And Jeb's got the flu, so he's sitting this one out, and Val is actually going to be our pilot. Which in reality, she just hasn't landed on Modern Minmus yet, so this will get her some XP. And you can see we got a full slate of tourists here. So we got Selena, Jonovan, Karis, Danson, Tedsy, and Hydra. Hail Hydra! So yeah, this is going to be probably a pretty typical launch for the most part. You can see we're already getting rid of we get rid of that first stage fairly early. I did have to use 3 mainsails on this guy, so it's actually a really expensive rocket. I think it was like 160,000, which really kind of sucks because that's a lot of money just to be thrown in the ocean. But we're going to get a lot of money from this mission, so it was really the only way I was going to get this much mass up into orbit with the stuff we have now. But you can also see we finally have the orange tanks. So I busted those guys out just because they are way more fun. And so for this mission now, I technically did 2 dry runs just to kind of test things out. And the big question I wanted answered was I didn't know whether it would be better to go to Mun first or Minmus first. Now, when I ran the dry runs, both times I got back to Kerbin with pretty much the exact same amount of delta V, regardless of which way I did it. However, if you go to Mun first, getting to Minmus can be kind of a pain in the butt because you need to really kind of sync up the orbits. So if I go to Minmus first, it actually makes it a lot easier to get a Mun encounter on the way back, but it did seem like it was a less efficient way. I don't know how the actual math and numbers and all that crap work out. I just went by the good old trial and error. So I think in the interest of time and everything else, I think what I might do is I think we're actually going to go to Minmus first. And we'll land on Minmus, and then when we come back to Kerbin, we'll do an encounter with Mun and land on Mun. I'm just thinking that it's going to make the trajectories a lot easier to plot. It's going to make getting to the 2 a lot easier to plot, and it means that when we actually land on Mun, we should have a lot less mass because we will have burned a lot of fuel by that point. So I'm hoping it's more efficient. I don't actually know if it will be or not. So yeah, that's going to be our game plan, is we're going to go to Minmus first, and then we will go over to Mun. But first we need to get this hunk of junk up to orbit, and we are ready to almost ditch our second stage here. Which, goodbye. We're going to crank the engines. And yeah, hopefully everything goes smoothly here. Because yeah, we're gonna be running it really tight on fuel. So I probably should have done research into which one's more efficient, but to be honest, I'm not really one of those players that goes for max efficiency. I like to do stuff, and if I have to brute force it with a ton of fuel, then I'll just brute force it with a ton of fuel. Because I just don't feel like doing the math. It's really what it boils down to. However, we are losing time to Apple like a madman right now, which is not good. So we're just gonna back off from that reticule bit and sing a song? I don't know. Is there anything else I need to talk about? I don't think so. It's gonna be a pretty, I mean, other than the fact that we're landing on both muns at the same time, like that'll kind of spice things up. That's something new that we haven't done before. It's pretty much the exact same as what we've done before. I mean, we've done a mun landing, we've done a min-miss landing. We're just basically combining the two now. And I'm not 100% sure how all those DVs work for transfers and all that crap, so we will find out on the fly, because that's just how I roll. I do napkin math, get a ballpark, and then I just try it and see what happens. But our time to Apple is screaming again. Wow. Wow, cool. So we got up to a 74 by 38 orbit, which is definitely plenty, and I still have a ton of extra delta V. Man, I really overestimated that. I kind of thought that I wasn't going to have a very efficient launch just because this thing was so big and heavy, but turns out I was wrong. So yeah, we're just going to fast forward to Apple apps, and we're going to ditch this bottom stage and then ignite our main engines and get our orbit. Cool, so we are in a 73 by 71 orbit, and now we need to find min-miss. There you are. Oh dear. That is really badly positioned. Shite. Okay. I don't really feel like waiting for it to swing all the way around to the other pole. So, I guess we will try this the old-fashioned way. Which basically means we're going to do a plane change in the middle of our trajectory here. And hopefully it'll be a lot less DV than the 250 it would cost us to do it where we are right now. So one trick you can do, now I typically don't like to plan dual nodes, but just to check, like I don't know, because I'm above where min-miss is right now, I can't actually tell if we're going to have an encounter. So what I'm actually going to do is kind of do a test. So if we did burn this circle, I would do a second burn out here at the ascending node and correct our plane. So you can see when I bring that down. Yeah, we're not going to get an encounter, but we're close. We're just a little bit behind it. So I'm going to get rid of this guy. We're going to go back to this guy. And, what'd I say? We were behind it. So we need to go this way a little bit. And then we will check our math again, which looks much closer. Yeah. So I'm not sure how much DV this maneuver is going to take, because right now it's just showing me the DV of this maneuver node. However, I do know that I can get an encounter by doing an adjustment out there. And I believe this is actually Oh, shoot! You angry. Shit, now I gotta redo this. I closed the wrong damn maneuver node. Okay, problem solved. So I just repeated what we did. So, cool. So we should be good. Once we do a correction over here at the ascending node, it'll straighten us out and get us our encounter with Minmus. And yeah, so this is how you essentially, if you don't want to do a plane change, this is just literally what you would do. Is you need to basically figure out where Minmus is going to be, launch your craft out there, and then just do a correction burn at your ascending node to push yourself down so you actually encounter Minmus. Which last time we did this, we did it as we just like burned at the ascending node and kind of waited for it to come around. This is a little more of a forceful encounter. However, at this point we just need to get around to our maneuver node, which we've seen multiple times, so we're just going to watch this on fast forward. So we just finished out our burn, and then I plotted a maneuver node at our ascending node, and basically planned our course correction so that we would encounter Minmus with a nice 10k kilometer pass. And then we just drifted out and performed that burn, but as you can see here, when I actually fired it, the math went completely AWOL and we didn't even come close to what we plotted. However, because we're doing a landing, I just decided to go with it, and we're just going to come in on the other side of the planet instead. However, after I did that, this happened. So we're just going to warpage. Wow. And just like that, 5 days have passed. And oh wow. Oh, fuck me. So at this point it would have cost way too much fuel to correct it, so I just reloaded a quick save before our actual maneuver burn, and this time it actually did what it was supposed to. So we are going to be coming in on our original trajectory on the proper side of the planet. As far as I can tell, I looked over the footage, and basically what it was is when I clicked the warp to SOI, for whatever reason, it just completely threw our trajectory out. I have absolutely no idea why. But this time I basically instead I just manually increased the warp speed, and it seemed to actually keep the trajectory this time. So we got out to Minmus here and plotted our orbit capture, and then we are basically going to just do a bunch more warpy warp and perform our break. So just a warning, be very careful with those warp to SOI buttons. They can apparently really throw out your trajectory. I'm going to do a very minute burn so that we have a really long descent basically, which will essentially maximize or help out our fuel efficiency as much as possible, because the flatter you can be when you're actually coming down to land, the more fuel efficient it's going to be. If you do like a straight drop, like a really fast just and land, it's going to cost you a little more fuel, which normally isn't a big deal, but I am seriously sweating whether we're going to have enough DV throughout this entire mission to actually pull this off. So we're going to play it safe, and we're going to try and use as many tricks as we can to try and save fuel. Which, now that I think about it, we probably should have come into orbit on the left side instead, or, well, the opposite side we did, because then when I did my brake burn, technically the, I guess, gravity assist of Minmus would actually help slow us down and save us some DV. And because we're landing, I can then just take off at a 90 and get back into a proper orbit. However, I didn't do that, so oh so well. So I basically just did our burn and got our trajectory, and then you can see I just threw a blank maneuver node, kind of roughly where I wanted to land, and it's just simply so I have a timer to know roughly where I want to come down. And then we just fast forwarded a bunch, and now we'll come back to real time because this landing was a bit chaotic. 2500, 2,000, 1,500. You can see our shadow there. 1,000, 800, 700, 600, 500, 400, 300, 200. Let's just turn that up because I'm probably going to need a lot more thrust. And fire! So this is a pretty true to form suicide. Get rid of that because we really don't need that anymore. Wow, that was sketchy. Okay, well, we're 100 feet, 80 feet. We need to lose more. Oh no! No, 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 no! Don't do that! Oh my god, they foiled me again! Oh, I hate this game so much. Oh, if you back. Get back on there. Oh my god. Oh. Whew. Son of a bitch. Well, we just burned some extra fuel again. This mission is not going well. Crap. Well, whatever. So, we have all the Midland science, because we were just here. However, we do not have this guy, so we can run an analysis. And that doesn't actually give us science. What it does is when you get the ore scanners, apparently it makes them more precise, the more measurements you actually have down on the flats. So we're going to take that, and we're also going to take a seismic, which, holy shit, that's worth 100. Man, I really should have bought that before we did our Minmus mission. Crap, man, that would have been an extra 900 science if I had one of those suckers. Oh well, do I know? Cool. So we got the seismic, which mildly concerned about that thing actually burning off during re-entry. So we're going to EVA Val here. No, no, get away from the salt pan. Oh my god, that's ugh, you're just as bad as Jeb. So we need to very carefully get over here and take, and then go back over here, grab on, get back on board. So at least that way, if that thing burns off later on in this mission, I'll still have that science for it. So, time to launch back into orbit and plot our trajectory to Mun. Good riddance, Minmus! Whoa, with the no SAS. Easy now. Once again, you've been a blast. But I'm kind of getting sick of seeing you, because we've been here a lot lately. Alright, so we're back in orbit at a 13 by 10. Which is good enough. Now comes the really interesting bit. We need to plot a trajectory that's going to slam into this guy, and we are way out of plane right now. So this might get actually really interesting, and I'm not even... I really don't know how to actually do this, so... Time to experiment. Okay, so I think that's what we're gonna go with. So you can see here we're gonna swing out and come all the way around here, and then we're actually gonna come down and swipe past the Mun. Now, because we're on a completely different plane, we're actually gonna be coming to Mun on a polar orbit, and we also still have a fairly high PE, but I wasn't really able to change it much. So I think what we might do, because you don't really get much of an Oberth effect out here about Minmus anyway, I think I'm going to do this burn. This will give us our rough trajectory, and then I'll probably plot a correction out at the ascending node out here to try and actually get this guy a little bit nicer. But for now, we need to at least get the trajectory. And then hopefully we can fine tune it. And you can see it's only going to cost us 81 dV, so plus whatever our correction is. I'm hoping it's less than 20, because that'll only mean we'll only use about 100 dV, which should give us enough to land on Mun and get back off and get back home. So here's to hoping while we painfully wait for a maneuver node that's 40 minutes away. Well, doesn't look perfect. In fact, it's actually better than what I plotted. Huh. Well, that works for me. Well, good enough. Cool. So I managed to get our PE down, and it's just going to be a small little tiny 11 meters a second correction burn. However, we are still coming in on a polar, so whatever. But because we're landing, I don't really give a crap. We should be able to deal with that. And we got a nice small correction burn, so that's cool. Holy Hannah. Well, we overshot that. Warning, collision course set. Probably not good idea. Oh God, am I going to be able to tap this? 13, good enough. Of course, we are 11 seconds out from our brake burn here. It's going to cost us a lot of delta V, which is starting to scare me. Just going to pull down into orbit. Alley-oop. Boop. 14 by 12, good enough. Cool, so we are now on a polar flight around the Mun, which I need to get around to the day side to actually land here. So if we're lucky, we may actually fly over the poles. And if we do, I'll pop out and do an EVA and get an EVA report from flying over the poles. And while old me plots a landing here, I'm just going to interject because this was the beginning of a really, really big mistake that was then coupled with a second really, really big mistake, which then almost completely stranded this entire mission. And yeah, things didn't go so well from here on out. But we'll leave those as mysteries to come. But the big problem with this one here is because we're on a polar orbit, how I was saying before that we can fix that because we're going to be doing a landing. I should have aimed to land on the equator and not just wherever the hell I felt like. And for some reason, I just completely forgot about that when I went to plot the landing, and I didn't land anywhere near the equator, which will then lead to a second really big mistake, but we'll let that one show up a little later. So back to trying to grab science. So I'm gonna see if I can't grab some polar science. Oh shit! We're over the northwest crater right now. Quick! EVA! Oh my god, where are you? Ah, where are you? EVA report. Aha! Northwest crater. Sweet. Get back on board. Bonus! So we got a crater while we're at it. So, yeah. Now I'm gonna see if we can get the poles. Cool. So as you can see, we're actually over the poles right now. So I managed to get 2 craters and also a poles EVA report. So that's fun. That's a little extra science for our adventure. Well, whatever. We might end up landing in a crater, but As long as we land in the crater and not the slope of the crater, I'm not super concerned about that. You can see our map is like rotating because we are in the poles, and actually we were just in poles lowlands there. I didn't even know that was a thing. Can we get another... Are we gonna hit that again? Come on. Hit the pole lowlands again. That would be sweet. Get some more sands. Sweet, sweet sands. Oh, there it is. Quick, EVA. EVA report. Aha! Sweet. That's fun. So we actually managed to snag pole lowlands. I didn't even know that was a thing. Apparently there's 2 pole biomes on one. Interesting. Do we have an impact time? Yeah, we do. 6 minutes. Well, we got some time to kill. Okay, so we are 45 seconds out from impact. I have no idea how long it's going to take me to slow down. And we are definitely looking like we're going to land in a crater. Shit. I need to start slowing down because I don't know how long this is going to take. Yep, that's taking a while. Although we might clear the crater. Are we gonna... this is on surface, yeah, okay, that's on surface. Okay, so we cleared that crater. Are we gonna clear this one, or are we gonna land right on the slope? I prefer not to. Come on, stop, 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 stop. Stop, 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 stop. Okay, we are 200 feet up. Oof, missed the craters. Yay! However, we are dropping like a stone. 60 meters, 50 meters, 40 meters, slow down, 30 meters. Right about there. Come on, stay standing. Stay standing. Oh, okay, cool. Oh! Well, we landed. And we only have 1,000 delta V left, so we are really going to be cutting this close. Like, really, really close. You have no idea, old self, because there is another obstacle coming your way, right away. But yeah, we're just going to fast forward through this. I just went and collected the seismic reading and got rid of the solar panel just so Val wouldn't break it. And back to real time. Cool. So we got our surface scan. Now the big question of how much DV are we going to have when we get back into orbit here? And I also... Wow, that was stupid. Oh my, that was really, really stupid. Shit. I had planned on landing near the equator so that when we did our burn, we would be mostly equilateral. But it looks like that is pretty much out. So I guess at this point we're just going to launch into whatever orbit we can get, and hopefully we can get a trajectory home. So we want to go... God, I don't know. I guess we'll launch on a 45. And hope for the best here. Post commentary me, do not ever launch on a 45. That is a really, 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 really bad idea. And it will make your life miserable. So don't do it. Just don't do it. Man, that is a really big crater. If I had more time to kill, I totally would have EVA'd someone in there just for the shits and giggles of it. Look at that thing. That, my friend, was a very big asteroid. Okay, we are in an 11 by 10 orbit, so we're not going to hit anything. And we have exactly 400 fuel to get home, which I've never launched from a 45 before, but hopefully that's enough fuel. Houston, we have a problem. And that problem is 7 Kerbals currently stranded around Mun. So I'm gonna come out of the gate. I'm no Scott or Mark or Matt in this game. I'm not a pro. I know enough to get by, and I just kind of cowboy it from there, and I have fun doing it. So I don't really care. However, I really never considered the implications of launching on a 45 and how bad of a position that would put me into. So you can see me messing around here. It honestly, it didn't matter which angle I ejected from or how much DV I had. There was just absolutely no way that I was going to be able to clip the atmosphere and get a return trajectory. So, I this took me about an hour, I think, when it was all said and done, for me to actually figure all this out. But so basically, I eventually concluded that there was no way I was going to be able to do this in one burn. I was going to have to do it in 2 burns. So my next thing was I figured out that if I ejected from the Mun at just the right spot, that I could essentially fix my plane and I would come out from Mun fairly flat. So I would be able to cancel out the plane. However, when I did that, the orbits that it put me on, I just didn't have enough DV to then pull the periaps down into the atmosphere. You can see me here. This is when I first started to realize that I wouldn't be able to do this in 1 burn. I would have to actually do it in 2. So my initial thoughts and plans was I was going to just eject from Mun into an orbit, and then I would do a second burn like this and pull down the orbit into the atmosphere. However, when I tested it, it didn't work. I just didn't have enough fuel to pull the PE down into the atmosphere after I ejected from the Mun. So then I went and tried a whole bunch of stuff with trying to do like slingshots around Mun to try and gain some extra fuel, and none of that was working. In fact, it was almost worse. But yeah, I tried a whole bunch of different things. Like I tried launching into all kinds of different orbits. I tried doing slingshots around Mun. I tried absolutely everything I could think of, and nothing would get me into that atmosphere. So at this point, I was really starting to lose hope, and I honestly kind of thought it was screwed. Like I thought I was going to have to just redo this whole mission, that I'd completely stranded these guys. And then it started to dawn on me that the 2 big problems I had was the plane and also that second burn. I just didn't have enough fuel to get that thing low enough. So what I ended up ultimately figuring out, and it took me a while to get there, but I did figure it out, that if I ejected from the right spot on Mun, I could correct the plane. And then if I ejected out towards Minmus, which is kind of ironic because we just came from there, but if I ejected on it so that it was an orbit that actually took me all the way out to where Minmus was, the amount of DV I needed to pull the periaps down into the atmosphere would be drastically reduced, just because we're right at the edge of the Kerbin SOI. So I decided to give that a shot, which you can see right about here. So we finally had our trajectory out, and I just kind of fast forwarded and then time warped and checked the math, and hallelujah, I was able to get the periaps down into the atmosphere to do a return, and I still had a little bit of extra fuel to spare. So after about an hour of pissing around, our Kerbals finally had a way to get home. However, in my celebration, I went to take a break after I finally figured out a way to get these guys home, and forgot to hit the record button when I came back and actually brought them home. So I don't have any footage of them returning, so I kind of cheated here and just threw the vessel out to Minmus and brought them on a return trajectory, just so I had something to show. And technically, the episode you just watched was my first go at this, and I actually was kind of angry about all the mistakes I made, so I actually technically kind of just set it aside and I redid the entire mission without mistakes. However, I also forgot to hit record on that one. Either that or it crashed while I was doing the mission. I don't know, but I lost all that footage, so I ran the entire mission a second time, and it was for absolutely nothing. So I then ran the mission a third time so that I actually had a recording of it, and then after I finished doing the mission, I kind of thought, it'd be a lot more fun if I actually showed the footage that had the mistakes, because I'm not perfect at this game, and it is a lot more fun trying to see the problem solving of when you completely screw up and you have to figure out a way to get out of it. So, yeah, we're going to cut to our conclusion now, finally. Alrighty, we are back at the KSC for the third time, fifth if you count my 2 test runs, and I am completely done with that mission. However, we were at 3.2, so we made almost 900,000 for doing that. We got a couple hundred science, so that's cool. Cool beans. So I really don't know. I don't know what the next episode's going to be. I am going to do a Minimus base soon. But if we were out there for like 20 something days, so there's going to be a whole bunch of new missions. So I'm going to go take a gander through there, see if there's anything that I can get some more money from, and then probably the next episode will actually be the beginning of doing a Minimus base, potentially. But I'll need to upgrade the research center to do that. So I don't know, we'll see. But until then, ta-ta.